in the wintertime when my mobile business slows down, because I'm doing the same thing day in, day out, I'm seeing where the coyotes are traveling, I'm seeing where they're feeding, and then I'm going to catch them between their travel spots and in those areas they like to congregate. I'm the type of guy that I can't stand it when I don't catch, but I really can't stand it when I miss. Not catching on some days is par for the course. Even the greatest professional trappers are going to have days they don't catch. But when I'm trapping an area and I notice that I missed that coyote, that gets underneath my skin. So I tried my best to learn more about my properties so that I could become more successful and just put up more numbers. My name is Jason Jenkins. I'm here for the coyote demo. We've got a pretty good crowd here. I'll do my best to talk as loud as I can. I have a hearing deficiency. I've been told this will be as informal as we can. So if you guys have any questions along the way, just go ahead and feel free to ask those. I have you for about an hour. First off, I want to thank the Missouri Trappers Association by putting on this rendezvous for us. By being asked to do this, I'm so humbled to be asked to do this. If you're not a Missouri Trappers Association member, be one. Secondly, if you see anything out there, go ahead and buy it. Don't even ask your wife. It'd be nice to see these vendors come out of here with a load full of money in their pockets, and I'm so thankful for that. Couple things real quick. In this demo, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself in case you don't know me. I'm going to show you guys two sets that work really well for me. They're going to put fur in the back of your truck, and then we'll have questions and answers if you want at the end. It'll be fine. I probably will have to move one of my sets over to the dirt area. I'll save that one for last, just because I think it'll work a little bit better. The ground's hard as a rock right here. I think it'll be a little softer over there. It'll be a little easier for you guys to understand. So can you guys hear me pretty good over there? Okay. Good on volume? Okay, great. Just a couple things real quick about myself, about who I am. My name's Jason Jenkins. I'm in the northwest corner of the state, up by the Maryville area. I've been a fur trapper for about 23, 24 years. There's two things that I bring to the trapping community is a little bit unique. First off, I'm a nuisance trapper. I've been a nuisance trapper since 2007. I trap 365 days a year. That's what I do. I have a small business. I can tell you a lot about that, how I got into it. I basically was a manager at a grocery store, and I loved my job, but one day I quit my job. And my boss, when I went to sign my pink slip, my boss said, "You're a really good worker, but you just like to trap too much." And I was a manager at the grocery store. It's all I ever knew how to do. When you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're checking traps. When you get off at 5 o'clock, you're setting new traps. And when you're skinning fur for 3 hours, you're pretty much worthless to your original employer. But it worked out. About a couple years later, he had bats, and guess who solved his bat problem? Me. So it worked out pretty good for him, I suppose you might say. On the nuisance side of things, I see a lot of guys are jumping into nuisance work. I'm super excited about that. If you like people, it is a people business. Catching fur or catching problem animals is the easy part. Is dealing with the people. That's the work. A lot of times, I like to fur trap to get away from people. So if you're really serious about nuisance work, be glad to talk to you. I've been doing this about 20 years almost. There's a good resource for us trappers there. The predator type stuff, I'm getting lots of calls for predator type stuff. Coyotes, nest raiders. You know, you have a lot of these properties that are being managed specifically for deer and whitetail and turkeys, and they need us trappers to go out there and service those properties because they put in the food plots, they spend the money, they buy the land, and they're upset because They have an overabundance of coyotes, they have an overabundance of raccoons, and their turkey populations are down, their deer populations are down as well. So I think there's a good outlet there for us as trappers. That's on the nuisance side of things. One other quick thing, I'm a mole trapper. Probably the last 3 years that I have been in business, it's about all I do. 8 to 10 miles a day is what I'm putting on my legs. When I'm busy, I'll run 140, 150 stops a week, just mostly doing moles. A large part of how I can become a better predator trapper comes from my mole business. To give you kind of just an angle of that, all day, every day, when I go out and I do my mole jobs, I'm looking for fresh activity, I'm looking for new activity, I'm studying the way the moles are feeding in the yards, and then I'm setting traps to become successful. That falls into my coyote line in the wintertime when my mole business slows down, because I'm doing the same thing day in, day out. I'm seeing where the coyotes are traveling, I'm seeing where they're feeding, and then I'm going to catch them between their travel spots and in those areas they like to congregate. So that's pretty much my nuisance side of things. Second thing is about me and what I offer the trapping community. I'm a YouTuber. I started my YouTube business not to get rich, not to be famous. My great uncle, who I love, he passed away about 5-6 years ago. He was my mentor. I felt like it was unfair to me to have somebody to teach me how to trap, to show me the line, all those tips and tricks. That's what caused me to start trapping with Jinx. So I'm in my 5th year YouTubing. If you happen to follow my channel, I'm not here to ask you guys for subscribers, if that makes sense. But I'll go out, I'll check my trap line, and then I vlog that on my channel so you guys can see just checking traps every day, catches. It helps motivate me to be a better trapper since the fur prices are down. It does give me something else to do, and I look at it like it's kind of a ministry, if that makes sense. I'm not here to get rich, not here to get famous, but I'm here to pass this on to the next generation. So those are 2 of the real basic things about what I bring to the trapping community. I think it's great if you guys have a knack for videoing your stuff and putting it on YouTube. It gives us a great platform to be able to reach new trappers, to support other trappers. When the weather is nasty and horrible, I like to sit down and watch TV, and I'm watching other people trap, and it motivates me as well to get out and trap. So those are just 2 things about myself that are a little bit unique. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into our coyote demo. I'm gonna show you this first set real quick before I get into it. I like to talk about, I told you guys earlier about how I'm a mole trapper. What makes me successful as a mole trapper is that I learned about the mole. A mole will travel 100 feet in a day. They change the way they feed on a regular basis. Being able to identify the travel tunnels and the feeder tunnels is what I do on a regular basis. If I apply that to my coyotes, if I learn more about my coyotes, if I learn more about how they travel, if I learn more about where they're feeding and different times of the year, then I can become a better coyote trapper, right? Does that make sense? I'm the type of guy that I can't stand it when I don't catch, but I really can't stand it when I miss. Not catching on some days is par for the course. Even the greatest professional trappers are gonna have days they don't catch. But when I'm trapping an area and I notice that I missed that coyote, that gets underneath my skin. So I tried my best to learn more about my properties so that I could become more successful and just put up more numbers. Couple other things about myself, I'm sorry. I don't like talking about myself. I've attended the LKL trapping school. I've attended the Kansas Mastery training course. I've taken personal instruction from Jason VANCE. He's from Maine. Through my YouTube channel, I'll go out to Western Kansas this year. I'll trap with him again, probably a good 2 weeks. If you like that high volume trapping, check out those channels. Who else have I taken this from? Ed Schneider. So a large part of what you're going to see here today is basically what I've learned from them. And if that makes sense. Going back to trapping. I want to talk real quick about this thing I call magnets. Magnets are going to be areas that draw the coyotes. That's what they're going towards. A good example of this is, how many of you guys like to dove hunt? Go ahead and raise your hand. You like to dove hunt? Maybe anybody likes to dove hunt? A good example of dove hunting, I took my son recently out dove hunting. And we were looking at a millet field, and it had about 100 acres of a long millet field. And then on the end of that, there was a pond. Now driving down to that area, I'm seeing doves flying off the road. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is a good spot because I'm seeing doves, right? And now when I sit back, and now I'm going to study where are those doves going to go. And they kept congregating towards one corner of the pond, and they had a long fence line through there. And there might have been a dozen, 15 doves on that one little area. Now the line between the millet and the other CRP field, they're going down that way, and they're congregating in that same corner of the field. So as a dove hunter, I'm going to go to that greatest magnet, that area that they want to be. So I set up there, and I got my limit, mostly because that muscle memory of them coming back, and whatever it is they were feeding on in that area, they just kept coming back to that area. I call that a strong magnet. In the coyote world, we're going to have strong magnets. A good example of that for me in northwest Missouri, we have a long river system. We'll have a river bluff with a long timber system. And in between those timber systems, there's going to be that CRP field, or that tall grass, or that blue stem, or that Indian grass. Now, if you're blessed, the farmer or the landowner will cut you a nice little road down through that. That type of field is what I'm calling a magnet in my area. What's in that magnet that would congregate all those coyotes? Rabbits, birds, voles, lots of voles. There's always going to be a food source there in that CRP field. Not so much late in the wintertime on the hardwoods, but that CRP field is always going to have something that'll draw them to that area. I call that a magnet. My second example of a magnet, and we all know this as coyote trappers, you're going into an ag field that has that irrigation ditch or that buffer stop in your field, whether it be in the middle of the field or it's a low spot where that combine doesn't go through. Now, when the coyotes come through that area, we all know that they're going to travel down along that buffer strip, aren't they? What are they looking for? Rabbits, voles, small game. And they're generally going to be hunting together, whether that be 2 or 3 or a family type. Those are another example of what I call a magnet. Those are the areas that they're going to focus on, or they're going to want to eat as they're traveling through. My third and probably my final one to talk about before I get into the set is dead animals, dead livestock. If you have a dead pit, those are a strong magnet. I had a neighbor that blessed me with a cow that died. He dropped it. I caught 10 coyotes off that cow in about a 1.5-month time frame. And I didn't set directly on that cow, but to give you an idea, that December, January portion, I set 10 traps in that area leading up to that cow. And I continually caught all the way through the winter months. That's another, what I call a magnet. Coyotes they're opportunistic. They're going to take a free meal anytime they get a chance. And a big giant steak just sitting there is super good energy for them, and they're going to just gorge that. Dead pits. Going back to my maybe I'll tell you. Going back to trapping with Jason Vance. I'll tell you this quick story real quick, and then I'll get into the set. We're out in western Kansas. we have a ranch ground that's 12,000 acres, 15,000 acres. The landowner drops a cow every day, I assume, and we go into this area that's accustomed to getting that cow, scat everywhere, tracks everywhere. It's what I call a no-brainer set location. Me and Vance, we set up 15 traps, come back the next day, and we maybe have caught 3 coyotes in an overnight deal. Now, a lot of people would say 3 coyotes is a great deal, but what had happened was the farmer had just dropped a cow and a third of it was gone. And I knew that those 3 coyotes that we caught didn't eat all of that cow. And the part that bothered me, and I talked to Vance about it, is I've got sets that are 10 or 15 yards, 3 sets that are 15 yards from that cow, and look how much I missed. And this was when Vance told me, he says, listen, that cow is the strongest magnet, and I'm offering them a small portion. When they drop that cow, that's where all of their attention is. And it's the same way in all of our magnet situations, if that makes sense. It's like going to a restaurant and you're hungry and you've got nothing but open plate. If there's a biscuit there, I'm going to eat that biscuit. But when they put the biscuit and the steak down, what am I going to eat? Steak. I'm going to eat that steak, and I'm going to gorge that steak. And so what had happened was that cow was a stronger magnet than what I was offering them 10, 15 feet away. And that was a learning opportunity for me. So don't be surprised if you go to those real strong magnet locations and you don't catch. Cabling opportunities, hitting those travel areas into those magnet spots, those are the spots you want to find. But what I want to really stress, and hopefully you guys are getting this, is learning those magnet opportunities in your properties and then going from there, if that makes sense. Any questions so far? I haven't lost anybody yet. Okay. I'm going to show you guys this set real quick. If I'm working a property and using one bait, one lure, that's just dead weight for me. But I'm kind of critiquing myself. I usually like to use the Duke 550s. They work really well for me. I have doggers in my area. I feel like I like a big trap. It's a real basic trap. You can see I didn't just dye these overnight. I work in them. Okay, so I'm going to discuss to you this set here. I call this set a step-down mouse hole set. It's basically a trench style set. If you study Jason Vance, if you study Liesel, you study Kendall, you study a lot of these guys, they're using a trench style set. Real basic set, nothing too out of the ordinary. My ideal location for this set is if I'm working a 500 acre piece, I'm going to work all the way to the back of that property. If there's a fence line that runs west to east, and I'm going, say, north, I'm going to get on that fence line and I'm going to set on the northwest side of the fence line. Now, I know that road's going to stretch 500 acres all the way to the back piece. The coyotes that are going to come through, generally speaking, are going to run through that 2-track is what we call it. I usually would like to say, I don't, when we trap private ground out in western Kansas, and they use a lot of the 2-tracks, where are the coyotes going? They're going right down the middle of the 2-track. You can see it, you just pull over, you look, you see them. I usually like to set 3 to 5 feet off the 2-track because I've got to pull that coyote 3 to 5 feet from where he's originally going, if that makes sense. So to give you an idea, I'm going to go up the 2-track, I'm going to set it on the northwest side. I'm going to be about 10 feet off of the fence row because they run about 10 feet off, and then I'm going to face at a 45 southeast. Does that make sense? So instead of hitting it at a 90, if I trap it at a 90, when they walk by, there's only 3 feet to look at. And I learned this one from Kendall. I don't know if Kendall's here or not, but he showed us this. if I hit it at a 45, I'm gaining 10 to 15 more feet high when he goes through there and sees that. So I hope I didn't lose you guys there with that. I like the northwest side because the prevailing wind's out of the northwest. The wind's gonna go across that track, and then they're gonna cut that and work in. That 45-degree angle makes a big difference. It's more inviting, if that makes sense. So, real basic. That's kind of my set location, and I'll get started. The ground's a little hard today, but that's par for the course, right? I don't usually worry too much about scent. I like to wear my gloves just because. Now I have my auger, and that looks fine. And then I have my rebar stick. All I'm gonna emulate is a bowl size hole. So if you're traveling through those CRP fields, it's a golf ball sized hole. It looks like a bowl. I'm gonna hit it at a 90-degree angle. I usually try to get it about 6 to 8 inches in, and then just do a circle. Now you can change that up. You can use those big 2-3 inch ones if you want. The thing of it is, I'm just kind of emulating a natural set with what they're already seeing out in the fields. Coyotes have this thing, it's called neophobia. It's like a fear of new things. So I always try to make my sets about as natural as possible. Now when we're out in western Kansas trapping, we use those bigger holes because the pack rats. They have pack rats out there, and that's where they're eating on. And they have that baseball-sized hole. It's so natural. When we put in our set, it looks just like a pack rat, and it's so inviting. So, you see how quick I put that in? No trouble at all. I like to use the pogo system. Works well for me. I'm probably about a 12-inch stake. These are the 1-inch. They're real simple to use. Any disposable staking system works fine. Now, during the late part of the year, I don't use a paint cover when I use peat moss. Right now I'm just going with landscaping fabric. I think I've done it all. I mean, I've gone through it all. Latex, wax tex. I think Liesl uses toilet paper, right? Mm-hmm. There it is. Now I'm about that much from the paint cover to the hole. And I always struggle with one thing on this. After I bed it in, the 2 levers are the most important thing. Usually they're going to step on this front lever here, and they can't wobble.
Covered up, sir?
Yes, sir. I just box in the sides over here. And now Liesl, or not Liesl, Kendall's not here, but he'd say show him the pan. Main thing is these two sides right here on this set, and just showing them that pin. That's pretty much it. It just has that trench-like appearance with that hole. If you stand back at this angle, I can see that hole from here. It's pretty inviting. Now, from here, all we have, now a lot of guys like to go for the hole. They like to bait on the top of the hole. You can do whatever you want. I'm not a stickler. I don't say it has to be done a certain way. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can make changes as you kind of go. Personally, I like to do a commercial bait down in the hole, and then I put my lure on the side. So, take about a dollop. Now, right there, I put it on the top part of the lip. Now, I've got that one place right there. On the bait, I always want to make sure that, I want to give them something they want to eat. Beaver, see, anything with a beaver base in my area works really well. I've done okay with horse meat. A lot of the vendors in here, I use a lot of their stuff. But I want to give them something in the hole that they like to eat. I do like it when they dig for it. I feel like they got to get it all. It would be not uncommon for me to pull this in about a month and a half, come back. Even if I covered it up completely, they dig for it and then want all of it. From here, I go an extra step. So you can just kind of see that depression. It's nothing special. From about 3 inches to the side, I'm gonna make a depression. And then I have a piece of deer meat, or not deer meat, I'm sorry, deer hide. Anything with a little fur on that with a nail, I put that on that. That's gonna be my lure, or my call lure. Now I'm gonna pretend, other than just the dirt I put down, because I usually use peat moss, if that makes sense. If I'm in the winter months, and it's late, because a lot of us, we trap during the winter months. I do pretty good on Fatal Breath. Liesl puts that one out. Cletus has got a good LDC caller. I use it a lot. If you like something a little skunk, I'm gonna put literally 1 drop of Liesl's Fatal Breath, and that's it. Now, from there, since that smell is so permeating, I always cover it. And I might even throw a little dirt on top of that. I'll pull coyote 20 yards, just like that, easily. I kind of like to hide it, but that's just me. And then I'm gonna go with just a little bit of coyote urine on the left side. Same area, and that's it, that's my set. Quick questions before I go on to the next one?
This type of set you use around the boneyard or the...
Yeah, I'm setting off the bones, yeah.
Do you use different kind of bait?
Yeah, you could use it. I mean, you can see my pail. You know,
It's not anything special with it.
No, it's nothing that you can't buy yourself or incorporate yourself. You could use meat in the hole if you wanted to. I like to give them something they'll eat. If your dog won't eat it, I figure the coyote's not going to eat it. You know, when we were out in western Kansas, Vance put a chocolate chip cookie just down on the ground, and he caught a coyote the next day on that, a chocolate chip cookie. That just shows you how aggressive they were, if that makes sense. So, any other quick questions before I move on? Okay, so we talked about this set. We talked about magnets. Now let's talk about smaller magnets. I'll have to probably go to my notes. Now these are like considering that they're going to that back part, they know where they're going to go get their feed, or they're going into that buffer spot, that buffer strip, and these are like small magnets that you kind of see along your trap line or traveled areas. Just a couple real quick ones. Drop limbs. Anytime where a limb had been kind of dropped, and you could see that it's a pretty good sized limb, it's not fully all the way down the ground. And you'll notice that there's a lot of grass in that area. Now, if this is a long fence row, and you have that one dead limb that's dropped there, they'll come over and check that out. Why? This is a theory, you can throw it out if you want. There's usually rabbits that hide underneath there. There's usually game underneath there. And they realize it. I assume they probably smell it as they're working. So drop limbs, it's kind of a small magnet. Cattle guards. If you guys are in cattle country, and I'm telling you this is kind of a secret. If you're in cattle country and you have those cattle guards where you go into one system to the next, what's generally underneath those cattle guards in cattle country? Rabbits, small game. That's a magnet, a small magnet. They know that. They know that those rabbits and small game are going to hunt underneath those. And believe it or not, like really old cows, just the bones have been sitting there for years. There's no meat on them. They've been there forever. And all you see is that bone. They'll come over and they'll check that out. Those are what I call small magnets, if that makes sense. Just little things like that to help you along your trap line. And you guys have them all yourself. Always just kind of, when you're working your properties, look for those stronger magnets, where they're feeding, where they're congregating, where they want to be, and then focus on those travel areas. And then when you see like little things like that, like the drop limb, the cattle guards, those, they're going to go over and check those out. And so I like to set off of them. That's why I bring that up. Any quick questions real quick?
So earlier you were talking about big magnets. If you had like a deer carcass, but yet the coyotes want to come to that bigger meat,
yeah.
Do you condone then putting the traps closer to that meat source?
I don't usually like to try to set on it because of birds, of course, naturally. Our state doesn't prohibit us to do that. I will set around it. You can see that they'll feed off of that deer. Our deer season is middle part of November. You know, it runs, what, 10 days? I mean, it's really hard because not everybody shoots straight. We kill 100,000 deer during the rifled season. What are they feeding off of? The gut piles. You know, it's a free meal. It's right there. But you have a very, very valid question there.
You talking about like 5 feet away or 10 feet away?
Yeah, you can set right off of this.
Okay.
I usually like to try and cable those trails going into those areas. I'll show you here in a little bit a trail set that works really well for that. But like I said earlier, you've got that steak that sits in front of you, and then you've got that biscuit. What are they going to want?
The steak.
The steak. And it's the same way.
Okay, another question. And the cable restraints would work good in that area, but if you put foothold like 10 feet away, how do you keep all the possums and skunks out of it?
You just got to thin them out. Or you set a higher pay attention for that. There's no beating around the bush when it comes to coons. You know, you're just going to catch them. I try not to catch them, but it is part of the course. Yeah. We live in a state that has a lot of coons. I'm going to jump into the cable restraint if we don't have any questions real quick there. So, a couple things I want to say. Going back to what I talked about earlier, that strong magnet, that CRP field, that's where I want to take you right now. This is that December portion. This is that January portion. This is the time of year where I love to be out trapping. But December, January, it's harder to keep traps open all the time, right? That's when these cable restraints come into play. So I'm going to go into my CRP field. I've got a farmer. I love my guy. He's great. He cuts me a road down the middle of that sucker on that, what I call the bread basket. If you watch my channel, you'll see a lot of my videos. I will almost always catch every day in the bread basket. And what are they doing? They're hunting. They're feeding. And these little devices here are just perfect for that opportunity. So, once I get this straight. I use the Missouri cable restraint. It's legal. I get on that trail. I like to go about 3 to 5 feet in that trail. My cabling, my staking option changes a little bit on my cables. I run an 18-inch with a 3-inch fender washer. Works really well for me. They might pull 3 inches on that at best. I'll set these in the trail. I usually like to come off the trail. I don't like to be on the trail. Do you guys like baseball? Pitchers, they never step on the line, do they? And that's the way I am. I never step on that line. I like to get off of that trail. So these are real basic to do. So you guys can see that okay? Let me scoot back. You can hide these. They're the best. You could catch overnight. You could catch a month later. The only thing that I'm concerned about is my deer. I'm using just a real simple pigtail. Just like that. The trail is like this. I don't have a trail to go by. I've already drove that. It's ready to go. I'm going to go around my loop. This is a Dakota line 285. You guys like Dakota brand. I don't make my own cables. I just don't have the time for it. Try to set my lock at 11 o'clock. The thing about cable restraints is I'm going to camouflage it, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'll do it in a minute. It will take all day. Now you can, a lot of guys, they snow fence them, which is fine. I like to kind of lead them into that. Now, the most important thing on this is, to me, is 10 inches off the ground, which is high. And then I run a 10-inch loop. It's a little high still. You can tell I'm not doing this every day right now. Probably make a better demo in January. I'm assuming a lot of you guys are already doing these. We used to have to take a class. Now, usually, and that don't have to be perfect. Perfectionist. One thing that kind of helps too is these will catch overnight, and sometimes they'll catch a month later. But I'm gonna hit every one of those trails pretty similar to that. And all you gotta fight is usually the deer knocking them over. When I drive by, I'm just looking for that block. It's real basic. That's it. usually try to block them in right here. That sits. I spent really a lot longer than normally doing that. But typically speaking, when the coyote goes through the tube, I want to kind of funnel him this way, if that makes sense. If I've got that little extra area of camouflage, he's not going to see that. And like I said earlier, I don't try to do a jump stick, and that's a little tall for the deer, because they'll duck under it, especially the older ones, younger ones. That's very effective. That's my cable restraint. 10 inches off the ground, 10-inch loop. So, like I said, I have a marker on mine. I go 10 off the ground. 10-inch loops, nice and round. Lock is at 11 o'clock. Now, one trick, if you struggle with them sticking, come off the lock just a little bit, and that won't stick so bad when you get that little bit of weather that it freezes. Now, one thing I will say about going to the breadbasket, this is hard to it's hard to teach this. My pastor once taught me, he said, some things are better caught than they are taught. And the guy told me this, and I sat on it for probably a year, and it's hard to teach this. I go through that area, there's deer going through there, we all know that. The deer have a trail, just like I am right here, and it's beat down, okay? The coyotes are gonna travel that trail too, but if I'm in that area to catch coyotes and coyotes only, and I don't wanna get off my four-wheeler, I don't wanna get out of my truck to pick them up every time, I try to stay off those trails. Those are what I call predominant deer trails. We have a predator trail, and this is what I was getting back to. Some things are sometimes better caught than they are taught. Now your predators, your coyotes, they travel 1 foot on top of the other. And that will create a V-like look in your CRP view. It's hard to see that, but those are the ones you definitely want to set. And a lot of times they'll be coming off of a ditch, leading out. Good location to set off of those, because you know they just hunted out of that ditch and they're pressing on to the next piece. But you'll see it at some point. Just remember that I taught you that, I passed it to you. But focus on the V trails. So if you go by your four-wheeler or your truck and you see it and there's still a lot of grass that looks like a V, those are predominantly your predator type trails. Your deer trails are beat down, and they use that whole trail. So, very effective. Winter time, this is my favorite. It's one of my favorite things to do. And once again, I'm in that magnet area where the coyotes are traveling, they're hunting. They're not going to be focused so much on my land sets as much as they are hunting. And now it doesn't mean that I won't catch them on the corners with my traps, because I do. But use your cables. I've got a fence row I've been blessed with, and it's got a lot of undergrowth. There's a piece in it that the fence is missing. You'll catch, I caught 3 coyotes, just 1, 2, 3. And I had to call the landowner up at the end of the year, and I had to apologize because it looked like there was a road that I made. But I caught so many coyotes in that one little spot, it literally looked like I made a road there. Once you catch, move down another 10 feet. Once you catch on this side of the road, go over to the other side of the road. You can set as many as you want on these and just keep catching. Just try to mark them. If you get older, just try to mark everything, or maybe you have a better memory than I do. And this is from Ed Schneider. He's a really good friend of mine. I took the Kansas Mastery course. He taught us this set. If you're in cattle country, this is my favorite, one of my favorite sets. You've got those, we got the Western Kansas, long cattle trails that hit the gate holes. Oh my gosh, I just love them. The pond dams, there's those coyote, the cattle trails that lead out. And where are the coyotes? They're on those trails. And I love this set for one reason, more specifically. The last set I showed you, I have to pull that coyote 3 to 5 feet. He's got to want that sight, he's got to smell it, he's got to investigate it. This set here, you can set it blind. A lot of people set it blind if they want. He's already down the trail. I got 4 opportunities to catch him. That's 4 feet, if that makes sense. And all I do is slow him down. It's a very effective set. It's called the trail set. So this is my trail. It's kind of curvy. Now I wouldn't do that for, I'm just doing that for you guys. I like to use a Bridger Douglas number 3. It sets a little bit, just sets better for me. I try to pick a spot on the trail that narrows just a little bit. And I can box them in. I've tried cow patties on the side. It works pretty good for me. Or I'll just use just the regular trail. So I'm sitting on my mat. I don't feel like that makes a huge difference in my coyotes and my scent. But I like to keep my sets clean, if that makes sense. Just who I am. Don't have to have a mat. A little rock here. I probably caught 20% of my coyotes last year on just this set alone. Shows you how far off I am. Now, I mean, I don't mean to be a stickler, so they're just traveling maybe an inch offset, if that makes sense. Ground's hard as a rock.
Now, do you always put your trap in that way, or?
I like it with the 2 levers, because if you set the levers right here, what's the first thing he steps on? Yeah. He'll step on that one lever. It might rock a little bit. That's just me. I like the chain on the loose jaw. Once again, it's personal preference. Just because that loose jaw sits on it helps support it. You know, you can change things up however you feel like it. I don't think there's a right and wrong way in a lot of things we do. I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, our own personal preference.
Right.
But I always say the most important thing is do whatever you feel confident in your sets.
Right.
And a lot of times when I'm not catching, I like to set, you know, one more set every day. Gives me something fresh to kind of look at. Oh, that's pretty good. You guys see how I'm hitting these pressure points? And it's not wobbling? That to me is good enough. Now, you can see there's a little crater right there. Probably the lowest spot in the trail. Now, this is a theory. Anytime I have a theory, you can throw it out. Theories are just opinions. I always felt like a coyote, he ain't got shoes on like we do. Our feet are hard because we're walking around all the time. I always felt like a coyote. He's got the soft feet. Trail's hard. If I left that like that, and he steps right here, would that alarm him? Because it's soft right there? Which is a theory I have.
Yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
spot he's stepping
Yeah.
on. Like,
So Ed taught us how to do this. We're gonna, hang on a second. I like these nice, Ed sells these by the way. And I hate to help him out as much as I can. But we're gonna go like this on the trail. Now I'm gonna confuse him. So we talked a little bit about the soft ground. And I'm taking a lot longer than I should. Getting much of this. Let me give them a nice little half-inch layer leading up to my trail. Ed would say, lay it on thick. So now as the coyote travels through there, it's soft over here, soft over here. I always felt like that's gonna slow him down. Now if you could tell, this is where the pan is, and it goes about an inch depression right there. Now if you wanted to set that like that, I wouldn't have any issues with that. That might box him a little bit if you wanted to. You do whatever you want, you just treat it as you want to be. I think Ed a lot of times will set a turd downwind, you know, just to slow him down. I do pretty good with a gland lure. Now, if there's some grass underneath here, and I might do that, I'm gonna go about 3-4 inches and then another 6 inches here. Let's call that the upwind side. Coyotes usually like to hit that downwind. And then I'm going to go right over here, same gland lure, in the same kind of direction. And now, it works. I catch. You know, if 5 years down the road, I want to do something different, I'd be glad to share that on my channel. But I think we're all learning in different levels. And now all that does is just slow them down. If you want to hide it, you can hide it. That's the set. Now if I want to put a rock over here, I could. I don't want him kicking the rock into my trap. I'm pretty happy with that.
you don't put no, like a little stick or grass or anything for him to step over to get through your trap?
Yeah, because his feet are right here. I mean, like, the best way to describe those trails is just to see them. I know when we're out in western Kansas and we're in that private ground, we've got those 2 tracks where the ranchers are driving.
Right.
They're literally right on those 2 tracks. It's like they take that path of least resistance, you know, catch them. And like I said earlier, there's no decision making in this set. It's just, all I want to do is just slow them down.
So would it work if the set was flush with the trail, or
It wouldn't be as effective because there's that dip right there.
they like to step down?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. Like I've used cow patties right here, you know. I just kind of always felt like they stepped right off of that, you know. They like that depression, or at least I'll get a deeper catch too,
Yeah.
you know. And it doesn't mean that I won't catch coons here too. I will. I'll catch coons. It's par for the course. And after you have a catch in this set, I'll reset it. I'll just take the fluff. I've caught bobcats on those trails. I'll still catch, you know. If you're in an area where you can't do cable restraint, you see a good trail, set one of these. You know they're already there, right? Or they're coming through. It's just a matter of when. You know. Some of my properties in Northwest Missouri are once a week. Some are every day for 3 days, and then they don't come back. Just getting back to those magnet areas where they're going to be. You just keep catching, because they have a huge home area. And they travel, and coyotes are very abundant in our state. Anybody have any questions? Did I do a pretty good job? Yep. I think I went a little over. I'd be glad to answer any other questions you guys might have. Once again, I have my trapping, my YouTube page, Trapping the Jinx. If you guys like that, subscribe, watch it. I'll run my trap line. I try to do things that are helpful for the trapping community. And I plan on trapping 4 states this year, and I'm going to catch at least 100 coyotes. That's my goal that season. So in conclusion, I would say if you guys can identify those strong magnets in your area, set in and around those areas, those travel areas leading up to them, oh, you're going to catch. You're just going to keep catching. What's your